All right, welcome. Double checking the mic. Great. All right, so for our class today, we've been adding a little bit of yoga emphasis to help us explore the dharanas. I just need it. I don't know about you. I need more yoga in my life. I need to move. It helps me meditate. I know that some people are like, let's get to the meditation. Sorry, not going to happen. Half-hour yoga. Enjoy it, love it, get juicy, feel good, and watch as you go deeper, faster. I guarantee it. Okay, so yeah, today's dharana. I actually skipped ahead, and we're gonna go back one in a couple weeks. But with the holiday season, I wanted to have a dharana that had a focal point of there's two aspects to this dharana that I'm gonna put on the screen here in a moment. One, there's one of the key words in it is blessed. There's this blessings aspect to the dharana we're going to look at, and that blessing comes about when one is able to bring their attention to their heart amidst the outer circumstances of our lives. So with senses open, attention and heart, the Shambhavi Mudra is how we're going to be looking at this. It happened to be our focal point recently in our meditation teacher training level 2, so it's sort of a cool timing to be able to work with this. We had a great time with it in class, so I'm glad to share it with you guys. So as always, I'm going to give you a minute uninterrupted to just be with the dharana in your own way. We'll just sit with it for a minute. Then we're going to transition back to do some yoga, and I'll just cue you to move to your space. Remember, you don't have to be visible to me on your screen. It might not be convenient for your monitor and everything. As long as you can see me and participate, have fun with it. So, the Dharana 25. And I'll read it out loud for us as we meditate with it for a minute. Blessed one, as senses are absorbed in heart, reach the center of the lotus. Blessed one, as senses are absorbed in heart, reach the center of the lotus. You can begin to deepen your breath flow a little bit and feel the breath sort of reaching the heart. So we're going to continue working with this dharana throughout our yoga practice, and then we'll dive deeper into it and have a little bit of unpacking with some quotes from the lineage after we do some yoga. So from there, we're going to move back, and you can get to your space, and we're going to begin in table position. And before we do that, I want to just take a second to do something for our wrists. So get to where you're going to be. And before we get down on our wrists, go ahead and interlace your fingers and just do some easy rolls, some wrist rolls. I always find if I go onto my wrists a little too quick, they tend to get tense unnecessarily. It's like it doesn't have to feel like that. And then see if you can slow it down, whatever direction you're going, and then reverse it. Slow it and reverse it. Just get some circulation there. And then, believe it or not, shaking out your wrists is actually really good for them. I had some wrist injuries a while back, and this was actually recommended to me by a physical therapist, and I always found it to be really helpful. All right, now that we've gotten a little bit of circulation, some space in those wrists, then we can place our hands on the floor. I'm going to tell you how to do that, though. So you got your weight in your knees, and you actually just bring your hands out. Oh, before we do this, notice if you bring your hands to your heart, and you just bring your hands to your heart and you don't press them together, you just bring them there naturally. Notice how there's space in your hands between your index finger. Notice that the only part of the hand that really touches the other hand is that sort of horseshoe-shaped curve from the pinky, and it goes down around the palm to the thumb. Notice there's a lot of space in the middle of your hand. That's because there's 3 arches in your hand, just like in your feet. Squashing those arches by pressing your palms together is just like the equivalent of flattening your feet. Not good for your joints, not good for your connective tissue. So those arches are good, they're meant to be there. So we'll take those supple hands and you just place them on the mat. You don't have to be super weird about it. You just sort of place them there. You don't have to be like soft. They just, if you notice, if you just place them there without pressing down, that space remains. It's pretty cool. And then you're like, well, it's going to flatten out when I put my weight into it. I don't think it will. Watch, as you shift your weight from your knees into your hands, arches are the best weight supporting structure in nature. An arch literally disperses your weight super evenly. And so as your weight goes into the hands and the knees, of course, we're not just laying into them, the arch is still there. And so that's something you can obviously play with. You know, maybe you didn't get it right away. From here, do a couple of pelvic tilts. I always find in table position, it's hard to keep track of my pelvis. So pelvic tilts mean tucking your tail under and feeling that lower half of your back sort of flattening and rounding a little. And then lifting your tailbone up and feeling the lumbar spine arching a little bit more than usual. And so these pelvic tilts give you sort of the outer ranges of arching and rounding the spine. And then see where you would pause if you were to feel what is neutral. Neutral means there's still a little arch in your back, but it's not rounded and it's not overarched. So we'll come back to neutral again in a moment. And so we're going to do a different version of cat-cow. And so for this cat-cow, I want you to exhale and just do that lower pelvic tilt where you're rounding just the low back. Exhale, rounding just the low back, and your abs pull in. And then keep those abs on, and as you inhale, shine the heart forward and imagine just arching the upper half of your back. So that is your thoracic spine between your shoulder blades. Exhale, the abdominals pull in, and you just focus on rounding the lower half of the back where the lumbar spine is. Inhale, the heart shines forward, and you're just arching the thoracic spine, the upper half of your back. And do this a little bit on your own, just sort of play with your breath. We're trying to bring the movement, specific movements to the spine that needs it. The lumbar needs that little bit of work rounding, the abdominals pulling in, and the thoracic needs that little bit of heart opening because we tend to round forward at our desks. And then come into, relatively neutral position. And we're going to do this one more time. Abdominals pull in, the lower back rounds a little bit. And with those abdominals on, you're just going to allow your low back to once again arch. And then pulling back to what you would call neutral while the abdominals are still on. So now you have a very active neutral position where your abdominals are on, you're not overarched, and then you're going to unweight one hand and feel how the knee and the opposite hand start to take the weight. Slowly that hand comes back in, and then unweight the other hand. So you're really just lightening the load on one hand and you're increasing the load on the other hand. Come into neutral, and we'll do one more time. We're going to do together. We're going to unweight the left hand and slowly float it over to the left along the floor and slowly up. And you can really feel the sort of diagonal line of work across your abdominals from the shoulder that is supporting your weight to the opposite hip. You guys feel that diagonal line of work, and that slowly that hand can come back down under the shoulder. Take your time with it. Slower will help you feel more. Unweight opposite hand, gliding out to the side. And as the hand slowly lifts from the floor, this is a pretty advanced movement, so be compassionate with yourself. Notice that diagonal line of work from the shoulder of the supporting arm to the opposite hip. And slowly gliding it back. And from there, we will slowly round up the spine. We've done this a couple of times together, and we'll do it a few more here. Crease the hips back. Tuck the tail under and roll up your spine a few times. Sort of an easy way to do some spinal rolls with a lot of support. And it also tends to unbind our hip flexors at the front of the hip. Next time you come up, you can just pause for a second. Crease the hips a little bit, bend the arms, and see if you can find your hands behind your back. You know I like to take this one slow, and so you just slowly reach the arms longer as you straighten the hips a little bit, and really take your time so you feel the stretch happening. As it's happening, notice the ribs need to be pulled in with the abdominal muscles so they don't splay open. And then pause, sort of bend the hips a little bit, relax the shoulders and the arms. And just pause here for a second. We're going to do this one more time. And take your time, pressing down through the knees, slowly reaching back through the arms and up through the heart. Blessed one, as senses are absorbed in heart, reach the center of the lotus. And breathe right into the center of your heart, amidst the work of your body. And slowly release the arms. We're going to bow down in Bhaktasana for a moment. If Bhaktasana is ever uncomfortable, you can put a block under your sit bones or a blanket between your legs. Here you can breathe into the back of your heart, into the back of the lungs. Blessed one, as senses are absorbed in heart, reach the center of the lotus. Yoga gives you this amazing opportunity to start absorbing your attention into your body. It's normally so externalized, and every position gives you this chance to feel the space of your body, bringing your attention closer and closer to what we know is inside. Pressing down through the knees to slowly roll your spine up one more time. Rolling shoulders back a few times. We're going to continue to open up the heart here. Bringing the left foot wide. Nice and wide. Give your legs a bunch of room. And we'll just floss the hips a little bit, tenting fingertips so they keep you nice and high. And just some easy big hip circles just to say hello to our hips. Again, a lot of times they're sticky. This isn't as much of a stretch as it is a glide for the different layers of muscle. It's nice big hula hoop size circles. And then plant the foot pretty firmly so you can press up through the foot. That's a nice activation of your hamstring and glutes. We'll scoop the arms up and make sure you feel balanced. Make sure your shoulders stay relaxed as the arms reach up. And there's a little bit of pressure down through the shin and the foot. And that allows the hips to engage while they stretch, which usually provides a more stable stretch. You don't have to go as deep to find that opening across your right hip. Shoulders remain relaxed. They seem to want to reach up, right? Because we're so used to that. But the shoulders want to relax down. The heart has this little tether that's pulling it up towards where the wall and the ceiling meet. That little lift. And then to allow ourselves to get a little bit deeper into that stretching hip on the right, the left arm can lower down to the side, and the right arm can reach a little bit up and over. Slowly activate some of the lateral line musculature by just lifting that left arm up. And then as the arm comes down, you can actually lift your body up, and then you can start to play with going towards the lifting arm on your stretch, and then back up as the arm lowers. The lifting of your arm is helping a little bit more deep core musculature engage to support you. The next time you go up and over, you can pause for an extra breath, and you can sort of peek that heart a centimeter up and feel the whole line of the body, from the back leg through the hip, up through the midsection across the chest. As senses are absorbed in heart, reach the center of the lotus. Press down through the feet to lift the arms up. Give yourself a little break by floating arms down. We're actually going to pause before we do the other side, gliding foot back to a knee plank, a knee supported plank position. Pausing here, and then just unweighting the knees and lifting slowly up to what would be plank, then slowly lowering the knees down. And then do that one more time, just unweighting so that you don't pop up into it too quick. That keeps you in your deep core. Turn your head side to side to unlock shoulders from neck. Make sure we keep that connection free. Bowing back to Bhaktasana, breathing into the back of the heart. And let your senses here be absorbed in your heart. Let your mind be absorbed in your breath. Gently pressing through shins, rolling up slowly, rolling shoulders back a couple of times. All right. And we move to the other side of that little sequence, a nice wide straddle, right? Fingertips tenting. And some big circles with your hips, just gliding here, not worrying so much about stretch as initiating range of motion, feeling the hip socket moving freely. Sometimes just showing your body how to move with grace is enough. You might have to walk the foot in a little bit to support you. As you press down through that foot, you can almost traction it toward you. I like how that turns on the hamstring a little bit. And we scoop the arms up. And then you can crease the hips and let them flow back. Do that a couple of times. As the arms come up, the weight shifts forward naturally. No need to press yourself into a deep stretch. You should just feel the arms float up, weight shifts, and then pause. Check in. You can feel that the front foot is supporting your balance a lot. The back knee is obviously supporting a lot of your weight. Shoulders, you want to remain down the back. Back of the neck is long, and the gaze is soft. You can practice that soft focus of the Shambhavi Mudra to both challenge your balance, but also to help you feel your body more. That soft focus that makes everything a little blur, but somehow sharpens the inner landscape. And from here, the right arm can float down, and then we float the arm up as we lean towards it, and then come up as the arm goes down. And so, as the arm floats up, deepens our core work, gives us a little bit more effective stretch, and then down. It's also a nice sort of mental coordination. Next time you go over to the side, you can stay there for an extra breath. Soften your grip. Make sure the shoulders are still supple. Your face too. You can peek the heart up. And then coming up. Excellent. Relaxing the arms down. And I know we didn't do this on the other side, but we'll come back to it. We're just going to massage the heel with an easy hurdler stretch. The knee has a nice bend to it. We're not trying to straighten the leg or do anything fancy. Just massaging the heel and wagging our tail. And to balance it out, we'll just glide that leg back. Bring the other one up. Okay, and then from here, you're going to plant the foot down on the floor in front of you. And we did this in our last class. It's called Look Up, Stand Up. And so from here, you just find a focal point up in front of you, and you stand up as you look at it. And then you come back down just for fun. Stand up, look up, and then try the other leg. Go back down, look up, stand up. One more time. There you go, and you can just stay up. Good, an easy bounce. I'm going to scoot back for a second. Easy bounce. Imagine like you're massaging yourself with this balance. It should feel like you could do this for 10 minutes if you needed to. That's the lightness of our touch. If you ever get the opportunity to drive on bumpy roads, know that it's actually pretty good for your connective tissue, that little subtle bounce. So right now we're having to create our own bumpy roads. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. Little shake at the end. Okay, so we've done some hip opening and some heart opening. So we're going to put it together at the balance posture that does both of those things, Natarajasana. Feel free to have your windowsill next to you or a chair or whatever you might need to help with balance, and I'll try to also guide, multiple levels of the experience. So to start, you're going to let your body sway from foot to foot. And the point here is to feel the weight land in that foot, let the other foot lift, and then come back across. To sort of say hello to your feet. Notice where your weight's landing. I noticed it was mostly in the ball of the foot, so I'm letting my weight shift back to the heel. And we can all just start on the right foot and just take a moment here. Your weight shifted, the other foot's still on the floor. Notice you want to sort of balance it out from heel to ball mount of the foot. The big toe presses gently on an imaginary piece of paper. The other toes spread out very easily and naturally. There's a suppleness in the knee. A focal point in front of you can always help. And then we're already working deep into our hip. You can feel just having your weight there. Notice if you're to sag your hip, go and let yourself sag the hip for a second. And then press down and lift the hip out of that sag. Do that one more time. So that little downward press with the hip lifting out of the sag and you staying up, super good for the hip health. Really helps a ton. And so we're going to keep that upward lift. And then from here, option 1, the foot reaches back, the arms fan open, and we're just sort of using the back toe as a kickstand. And we're pausing here for an experience of Natarajasana, an experience of balance with a slight opening and slight heart in hip opening. Option 2, of course, would be to bend that back leg, possibly finding the ankle. At that point, you're probably going to want the aid of your arm coming out towards a T. Don't forget about your focal point. And then as you're in the posture, check in with your ribs, check in with your hip. This isn't about sort of splaying open and having a deep posture. It's about opening your hips, using the posture to open your hips. So we're going to press a little bit down and out through that back foot. Keep tugging a little bit on the abdominals to keep the ribs in check. And you're lengthening back as you're lifting up. As senses are absorbed in heart, reach the center of the lotus. And so you can imagine that center of the lotus, right in the center of your heart. And if you'd like at the end, you can bring the arm up next to the ear. A little bit more challenging for balance, but watch that hip and ribs. All right, and then watch, we're going to come out slow. Your arm's going to go back to T. Slowly release the foot. We're going to stay on this leg for one more breath, bringing the foot forward. Option, just lift the leg here, or you can try to give it a little hug. And then we're down. And then give this hip a second to breathe. Do some easy hip circles. Notice the amount of work that occurred in that hip socket. That kind of stabilizing work for your hips is really rare. It's hard to get in there. It's hard to find that kind of stability. A lot of the challenges can go the other direction. A lot of the issues that are coming up with people's hips in yoga is about stretching them too deeply without the stability. And it's creating like arthritis and torn ligaments in the hip. And so taking time to strengthen the hip socket is pretty valuable. And then we'll just pause in Tadasana for a moment. Tadasana, you can fan the palms forward if you want that little bit heart opening flavor. Blessed one, as senses are absorbed in heart, reach the center of the lotus. Slowly let the weight shift over to the other leg for our final posture and sort of final moments here in yoga. Taking a moment to just let that hip just get acclimated. Go ahead and just to see it, let the hip sag a little to the side and then press down through the foot and lift out of that sag. So it's like you're just sort of hanging into your hip and then you lift out of that. And then you sort of hang on to that lifted sensation. See where the weight is in your foot. Give your toes a chance to say hello to the floor. A little bit of extra pressure through the big toe, but not too much. Focal point in a soft gaze. Option 1, to just reach back and just take a breath for everybody here and fan the arms open. Breathing gently and sustainably. Option 2, to find the ankle. You can let the arms stay down low at a V or come out to a T position. Check in with your hips, your abdominals, and your ribs. Feel that you're using this posture to feel what's going on in your body, not to affect your body. You're doing it to feel, and the posture itself has an effect. You don't have to bring that. You just feel the effect as it's occurring, as you're breathing. Welcome to bring the arm up if you want a little bit more challenge with your balance. Watch the alignment across the front of the body and take a breath right into the center of your heart. Micro bend in that standing leg. And we'll come out slower than you want to. Nice slow release of the back leg, and you can just lift it up for a second. And if you like, you can grab around the shin and lift up a half an inch more. And then we'll come back to Tadasana. Again, some easy circles of the hips. You can close your eyes if that's all right with you. Notice that stability you feel, the lightness in your hips. You can switch directions with your circles. How your hips are just holding you so much easier. How your torso feels more supported. And just taking another slow breath or two into the heart. Welcome to fan the palms forward. And just because we're already here, we can bring those hands to the heart like we started this sequence. That little bit of space in the heart, and allow the sides of the thumbs to connect to the center space of your heart. And allow that little slight touch of the hands to the heart to allow the senses to absorb, have your awareness absorb towards your heart. If there's anything you'd like to do as a counter pose, you're welcome to do that now. You can also just get ready for meditation by finding your seat. Let's take a moment to look at a little bit of the translation by Swami Lakshmanju of the Dharana. It's very simple, but I like some of the wording that he used to sort of unload or open it up a little bit for me. So Swami Lakshmanju translates the Dharana. O Parvati, one whose thought is focused, centralized in the ether of the heart. That heart which is situated between two lotuses, one facing up and the other facing down. In between there is the ether of the heart. One whose thought is melted, focused, without the interruption of thoughtfulness, ananya cheta. When they become one-pointed in this process, they attain the glory of entering in the kingdom of God consciousness. So we see a recurring theme here is that there's a sense of centralized focus, and we're sort of given this visualization of a lotus, one facing up and one facing down, with like a center point in the middle as the heart. I usually try to respect the fact that I haven't been given necessarily a practice about visualizing a downward facing lotus in the heart, next to an upward one. So, try to probably have a light touch with that concept. But I think what it's really given to me, what it's helping me do, is to simply sort of realize that the space of the heart has to be sort of attained, that there's a lot around it, right? And I think in the Dharana, what's around it are these senses, what's around, that's covering our heart, according to the Vedas, is like our samskaras, which is another way of just saying like our mind, our senses. And to find this space of the heart, we sort of have to really go to the center of the center of the center, recentering. In fact, the Dharanas are translated as according to Paul Reps, as just, centering, just centering practices. So it sort of alludes to we have to find this centered space. I really appreciated the words also that Lakshmanju used here, which is to say, when our thoughts are melted, focused without interruption. Melted really spoke to me. That the kind of awareness we're seeking with the Shambhavi Mudra, with this inward awareness, isn't like a mental, like, I want to do this thing. But it seems to be, as far as I can tell, that it's a surrendering of our attachments to what's in the room of our mind. It's more like we gotta melt or release those attachments to have this heart awareness amidst, our mind and our senses. Oops, sorry, that was probably a little bit of a quick zoom there. And then I wanted to read one quote here from Babaji about the Shambhavi Mudra. The Shambhavi Mudra is learning how to see inside with your eyes open. My name is Shambhavananda. It means to be immersed completely in your inner self while all 5 senses are working. You can't close your eyes to the world and to the things that are of it. It is easy to close your eyes and daydream. It is more difficult to be present right here and now. You need to learn how you relate to the outer world. Being more in your heart won't make you dysfunctional. It will make you more aware and more alert about what is going on around you. If you can learn how to keep your heart open and your eyes open, you'll see a different world. So being able to meditate with your eyes open isn't really just like a trick or some kind of advanced practice because it's seeing through distraction. It is in and of itself the practice of surrender, and it sort of opens the door to like, yeah, you got to surrender within the context of your life. You open your eyes, that's your life. It's all around you. There's always things that can take your attention. And so it's harder to find your center amidst your life, amidst these 2 lotuses, so to speak. But if we can do it, he says, we will see a different world. And so I want to see a different world. And so to do that, we have to practice. So that's where we're going to transition. For the Shambhavi Mudra, for being able to meditate with your eyes open, it's important to have a focal point, not like you're staring at it, but an area to focus your eyes that is relaxing to your eyes. So for that reason, you don't need to look at the screen. If you have your shrines off to the side, I'm going to pivot to looking at our shrine, and you're welcome to do so. And so once you get yourself situated, you just want to be able to gaze towards, it could be something as simple as a blank wall, but it can be helpful to have a general just focal area. And one of the ways that I think it's easy to get this idea of a soft focus, although I think most of the people in this class right now know this already, is to hold your hand up in front of you, maybe a foot or two away, focus on your hand, and then if you just keep that focal length, if you move your hand down and just keep staring at that same length of space, all of a sudden everything in front of you is a nice soft focus. So you probably could do that without the hand, but it's a nice way to just communicate it. So we have to re-find our seat, first finger and thumb together, Jnana Mudra, palms up or down, whatever you prefer. Having the palms up can sometimes inspire a little bit more openness across the chest. You might feel your shoulders relax back just a half a centimeter. And hopefully your focal area doesn't make your gaze look too far up or too far down. But you're not really staring at a point, although if you're working with a murti, for example, it's good to just gaze towards the face of the murti, but you could look at any point on the murti, and you don't have to be looking at a murti to do it. So we have this nice soft focus, and our eyes are relaxed. Our body is supple and buoyant because we did some yoga together. It's sort of a nice gift that keeps on giving for your meditation practice. Right, and just give me one sec, my camera just did something funny, so you guys can just be right where you're at. I guess I'll be over here. And so slow down the breath a little bit. The nose is such a great gift to breathing. I know that seems like sort of obvious, but breathing through the nose is such a gift. It helps you slow your breathing down without any effort at all. It filters the breath. It actually creates a more optimal oxygen assimilation rate because it's slower. It inspires more of your deeper core musculature like the diaphragm to help you breathe, so you're breathing more efficiently. It's a real gift. And so breathing through your nose can naturally just slow your breath down a little and help you feel it. And swallowing and allowing the tongue to naturally suction up towards the roof of the mouth, tip of the tongue just behind the front teeth, not against the teeth, but a little bit behind. And just feel that lightness, that buoyancy, that balance that Babaji often describes. And so our work is to absorb our awareness into the heart. And one of the ways to begin with that is with your breath. The breath is quite literally how you absorb your awareness inwardly. And what's also nice about the breath is it's a very practical, tactile tool. So as even though the eyes are open, you really can just focus your awareness on the breath. You can feel it. And because it's a little slower than normal, it's easier to feel. And so the beauty of the Shambhavi Mudra is its simplicity. The very idea of just having awareness of your heart in this moment. To just be able to feel your heart and to just be able to even feel your breath happening there is a powerful meditation practice. We really take this for granted, but you're doing something significant by just having your eyes open and being able to feel and notice your heart. And so you've got this focal point. It's the center of these two lotuses, meaning the center of the center. And it's this focal point in your heart. The eyes are soft, but our awareness is focused on the center point of the heart. Blessed one, as senses are absorbed in heart, reach the center of the lotus. We don't have to absorb our awareness in the heart all at once. We just have to have that focal point and keep coming back to it. For me, a part of my maturing as a meditator was realizing the amount of times I'm willing to come back to my heart or back to my mantra is what really determines my growth. Not the experiences I might have, but rather the coming back. So holding that simple focal point of the heart amidst the senses and the thoughts. And let your breath keep showing you the way. The hum sa mantra can be very beneficial for helping the mind get on board. Hum as you inhale, sa as you exhale, silently repeating this in the heart. I am that. Feeling that meaning as you repeat it. You are this heart. Feel this trajectory of awareness, this inward sort of suctioning of awareness towards the heart. Rudy described it once in satsang as a vacuum, drawing your awareness down into it. This gravity of this seat of the heart. Let it pull your awareness down. Let yourself be absorbed in the heart. last one. As senses are absorbed in heart, reach the center of the lotus. How do we absorb our senses into the heart? By simply focusing on the heart amidst our senses. We can't rush it and we can't force it, but we can hold our focus in the heart continually, as the Dharana described it, in continuity. For the last minute or so, you can allow the eyes to close. It can feel very cooling and comforting to close the eyes here and feel that inner space very big, very sensitive. And so, as we approach, the days leading up to holidays, and in the week and a half leading up to the next holiday, and 2 weeks leading up to our intensive together, meditation intensive. Just know that this simple practice of just bringing a little bit of awareness to that heart center amidst the flurry of our senses is powerful. And you don't have to change anything about your external life. You don't have to force anything, accept and reject. You just have to hold that point of focus in continuity for a little while and let that be the fulcrum of your work. So namaste, everyone. Thank you for being a part of this class.